Hey ho, it's Marco Cattaneo representing Charles Sturt University with yet another study aid for the subject ITI 597, the subject that covers IT service management. In today's topic we're going to take a closer look at the basic concepts for the process IT service continuity management. So the basic concepts for the process IT service continuity management. Yeah, in a perfect world, the business will have a business continuity strategy. Which ones of the business processes are critical? What about people? What about accommodation and like buildings? Where do we start to recover our business processes in a scenario of like a disaster? Now, linked to your business continuity strategy should be your IT service continuity strategy. So where do we start to recover services in IT so we optimally support the business? Now, both the business continuity strategy and the IT service continuity strategy will have like plans as output. So we're talking about business continuity plans and IT service continuity plans. And of course, all these plans, they need to be properly aligned with each other. So in a scenario of like a disaster, we all start to run in the same direction and not in like 50 trillion different directions. So you want to make sure that all the noses point in the right direction, in the same direction. So alignment is key to like success when you talk about like continuity of your business and continuity of IT. Yeah, everything seems to like evolve around like life cycles nowadays in a service management space. So here's yet another life cycle, the service continuity management life cycle. Where do we start? We start with like identifying our business continuity requirements. So what is important in the business? What is critical in the business? That's where we start. Then we can kick off with the initiation step. So we can create like a project management environment that will allow us to do like business continuity management and like IT service continuity management because we need the resources in place. Then step number 3 is requirements and strategy. That's where we start to map out our business continuity strategy and our like IT service continuity strategy being derived from that. Step number 4, we go into implementation. And implementation will have a couple of key outputs, the business continuity plans, and again derived from those the IT service continuity plans. So we now know what to do in a scenario of like an unforeseen like outage or like a disaster. Step number 5, ongoing operation. Ongoing operation including like regular testing, training, and keeping all the plans up to date. And in worst case scenario, of course, you may have to like invoke all those like disaster recovery plans. And then we go back to like business continuity requirements because requirements are like ever changing and nothing is static in the world of IT, in the world of business. And there are lots of like internal and external factors that will drive change, including like new requirements. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit further into our service continuity management lifecycle model. Moving from initiation into requirements and strategy into implementation and finally ongoing operation. Now what you will notice is that the first two stages like initiation and requirements and strategy are predominantly performed within the domain of business continuity management. So they're like business topics. Whereas implementation and ongoing operation, that's where we find like a stronger interface with like the domain of like IT service continuity management. So what's happening within all these stages? Initiation. In initiation, we're setting the policies, we're setting direction, we're determining the scope, what's included, what's excluded, and we're also creating like the project management environment. We're like sourcing, think of like budget and people and skills and like hardware, software, and we're sourcing the project environment. In requirements and strategy like a stage, we're performing a business impact analysis. So what's important in the business and what's going to happen if it becomes unavailable. We're going to perform a risk assessment, which actually consists of like analyzing the risks and like managing the risks. And we need like a strategy on like where do we start, in what order, for example, are we going to recover the various business processes and the various IT services when a certain disaster occurs. Implementation, now we're actually really developing those plans. So we're writing and we're creating like the IT service continuity plans or the disaster recovery plans. and we're also developing the supporting documentation in the form of like procedures, process descriptions, work instructions, role descriptions, you name it. Of course, we need a bit of a testing approach. If we've got all these like disaster recovery plans in place, then how often should they be tested? And of course, we want to perform an initial test before we go live. Now we're in ongoing operation, and that means there's a continuous and ongoing like education, awareness and training. People need to know what to do in a scenario of like an unforeseen like outage or like a disaster. Reviewing, auditing and regularly testing all those plans. We want to make sure they're up to date and we want to make sure they still work. And of course, like every time something changes in the environment, we need to scratch our head and ask ourselves the question, do we need to update these plans again? Do we need to like test these plans again? So we've got a nice sequence of like activities happening within this like service continuity management lifecycle. Yeah, in a not so perfect world, but a very realistic one nonetheless, you may find the following situation, or you may find the following scenario in place. You are the IT service provider, and you've got your own set of like strategies and plans in place, and it's all perfect, it all works. But guess what? Now you're outsourcing parts of your services, or even like complete services, to like an external organization. We'll call them the outsource organization for now, and the outsourcer. Now, the outsourcer will have their own set of like strategies and plans in place. And they are not always like perfectly aligned with each other. So you may end up with like potential conflicts in both strategies and plans. And of course, that's a challenge. You will need to resolve these conflicts in order to like move on, in order to create like an optimal environment where in a scenario of a disaster you are able to like recover like business processes, you are able to recover like IT services. Phew, Muskie, practice what you preach. Hey, of course it's about understanding the basic concepts of the IT service continuity management process. See if you can answer some of the following questions for your own business, for your own organization. Do you have a BCP in place? Do you have like a business continuity plan in place? Do you have like an ITSCP in place, like an IT service continuity plan? Are these plans actually aligned with each other? Are they aware of each other's existence? Are these plans kept up to date? Have a look at like the latest revision date. Are the contents of all these plans properly communicated to the people in like IT and the people in the business? By the way, do people actually know their roles as part of all these plans? So if there's a disaster, what role do they have to play? So hey, have fun with this exercise and see if you can find some answers. Yeah, what's up, Doc? It's a simple question. Hey, developing a testing strategy / approach and performing an initial test of the service continuity plans is performed at which one of the following service continuity lifecycle stages? Please note that the stages are properly sequenced from A to D. So answer A, initiation. Answer B, requirements and strategy. Answer C, implementation. And answer D, ongoing operation. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about the answer, and then as usual we move on. Okay, the correct answer is of course answer C, implementation. We're actually in the implementation stage when we're talking about like developing a testing strategy and performing an initial test of the service continuity plans before we go live, before we move into ongoing operation. Hey, in the next topic,
Defining and explaining business continuity plans. We will do.
yeah, all still part of service design. Hey, until then, live long and prosper, nano, and as always, I'll be back.